I am so excited. We're back today with another artist series, and today we have a fantastic young lady. She is a med tech innovator, a founder, and a researcher. Please help me welcome Mary Bellakbira. Hi, Mary.
Hey, Carlia. Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you too. So, Mary, I want you to tell me, take me back. You do so many things in healthcare and research, but what first sparked that interest?
Let me tell you. So, it's actually started off when I was really, really young. I was involved in seeing a lot. I was around a lot of wonderful, amazing women growing up. But the one thing that I always ended up actually seeing was a lot of them having a particular scenario or issue when it came to their health. So, we're thinking things like PCOS or Hashimoto's, or we've heard of endometriosis and the issues that slowly started uprising when it came to, more exposure to things like mental health and everything in that realm. So, this is very personal and dear to my heart. But when it came to seeing even my own family, my friends, or people in the pageant world and in the space, I noticed that, and I eventually identified a correlation. About 80% of women globally suffered from some sort of hormonal abnormality, and so with that, my biggest fear, especially being the youngest, was like, maybe I'm the next one out of everyone in my family who's obtained some sort of kind of condition. And so that hurt, and that touched, that really, really touched me. And I was very interested in getting involved in science. And eventually I did a middle school science fair on studying double dipping because I was a really huge germaphobe, oddly enough, when I was really young. But from there, I ended up winning the science fair and ended up getting a research position that actually ended up really changing the trajectory of my entire life. So it's funny how kind of things work out wherever you put yourself. Um,
I love that. I love how it evolved from you being kind of a germaphobe, these very personal interests, and to see where you've taken it today. But when we look at our current climate, we kind of see an attack on science or health. What keeps you motivated to keep doing this work?
yeah, a lot of the motivations really stem from seeing the constant issues that are coming up. So we're hearing things in regards to just reproductive justice, or when it comes to what are we even consuming that are in our foods and our everyday in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we consume. So really what motivated me was knowing that I was slowly falling into that category as well. So I was noticing a lot of my own issues and my own health concerns that were starting to come up, and I was seeing that in other people as well. What really directed me was acknowledging that your health is the number one priority and the number one contribution to your entire life. We all have heard, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so I realized, what makes a really good leader isn't someone who's, necessarily just telling what to do or guiding them of just do this, just do this. It's having the belief that if they can go ahead and change that particular, scenario, or do this particular thing, and encourage them to establish that mindset that it is possible to be free from these particular endocrine abnormalities or these endocrine conditions, that they too can go ahead and live a life that's purposeful and fulfilling, and where they can serve and where they can lead. So a lot of that motivation was directly upon from my life to all the way to everyone else's, trying to continue to do so.
That's amazing, Mary. And one thing I kind of took away from that, we all kind of have this fear because we don't have the information. So
Yeah.
you being able to flip that around and learn about it and raise awareness and tell others about it, it kind of eliminates some of that fear because now you know how to fight it, what to look for, how to take the proper steps. So one thing about Mary, she competed in the Miss Virginia pageant and she did so well. So Mary, it's a beauty pageant, isn't it? So how do you combine all of the scientific research of competing in a pageant?
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question. A lot of the times when it comes to the communication aspects of things that are so complicated, like if you have interacted with, scientists, researchers, doctors even, a lot of the times their work is really complicated to understand. Like I would watch, I would listen, and sometimes I wouldn't understand, a good half of it. For example, I said, wait, what are you saying? Because of all the complex jargon. So it really was a lovely, lovely challenge of being able to go ahead and communicate it to, getting the important pieces that can actually connect with the audience and the people. And so that was really when it came to how people feel and how they feel about themselves, and then directly connecting it to, this is why a lot of this innovation is really helpful. This is why we're going ahead and we're making those particular changes. So especially in a space where, science is being under attack, whether it's acknowledgement for funding or whether it's, limitations in particular spaces, it's really, really good to be mindful and create opportunities for also transparency, so we can mediate any of the unnecessary, jargon and the misconceptions that come from research, but also when it comes to, just adequate communication for everyone to know, this is what's going on, this is why we're going to make it impactful, and that's why the research that I'm doing is going to serve, for the goodness of this rather than something else.
It is. So, Mary, you've been a lot of different places. You've done a lot of different things, a lot of important partnerships and collaborations. So tell me a little bit about your work with the Harvard Medical School.
Yeah. So, for some brief context, I've gotten and have very strong affiliation and currently working with at Harvard Medical School and Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So ultimately in the space, a lot of my research I've done before, or like for example at NASA, was in the realm of genomics, of getting, plants into space, which sounds insane. And it definitely was a very, very crazy experience, really trying to acclimate to that kind of space. But when it came to the application at Harvard Medical School, we realized that there is so much opportunity for new developments when it comes to chemotherapy. So chemotherapies are a particular kind of treatment utilized with particular cancer. So the ones that we're focusing on are ovarian cancer and lung cancer in particular. And from there, we realized there's these new proteins called ADCs, and these ADC conjugates that we can go ahead and engineer, which are, think of like a really big antibody. It's an antibody, a type of protein that we can engineer in our bodies that can go ahead and fight and mediate and remove a cancer-causing protein. So that's like my way of trying to communicate. There's a protein in our body, it can flesh it all out, and there's a lot of optimization that a majority of the world is probably going to be seeing within the next 20 years of these new developments in our cancer treatment. So I think it's an absolutely fantastic time to get into it and really keep pushing it as well, especially as we notice a lot of changes in our cancer rates in the US.
That is amazing work, Mary. Tell me a little bit, why is hormone health such an important issue?
Yeah, so I grew up in studying in the realm of hormonal health and hormonal abnormalities. So, for some context, hormones are a particular, or ultimately these signals in our body that secrete different receptors. So, these receptors, for a good example that we all having had before, is epinephrine. So that hormone that can end up being secreted in our body and creating, high blood pressure, or when it comes to feeling a bit stressed, or maybe you might be warm when you're stressed, you get a little bit stressed, it's because your body ends up creating that epinephrine that creates a little bit of that stress as well. And ultimately, hormone health is really, really important. It's probably one of the biggest foundations of our entire life. It affects our reproductive. It doesn't just affect our reproductive health. It affects our mood. It affects how we feel. It affects our sleep. It affects this, your skin. It can affect really even genetically. There's genetic hormonal conditions that are something that we need to acknowledge. But the real foundation around hormone health is that as we age, our hormones can change. And we know that our hormones change throughout time as we get older, all the way from when we're going through puberty, during that period, all the way to when we're getting much, much older, around, in the 70s to 90s. And so it's really important that we can figure out and mediate the structures within our hormone growth and space. And that's particularly what I am currently studying. because the importance of it is to make sure that we can identify the severities of how we're aging, and then we can go ahead and create more quality in our life, because the US has done a fantastic job in elongating our lifespan in the US, so the average lifespan, but not necessarily the quality. And that's going to be the next target, and that's going to be the next focus for our future.
Mary, it's so amazing to hear you talk about this work and the fluidity in which you just discuss it in the big words, not but it's really amazing, and it shows, how much you've read about this, how much you've researched, all of the work it shows. So, how would you say, being a young person, that you balance being involved in all of these different areas, being in school, being a researcher, being in pageants? How do you balance all of this?
I love to say to do it all and find a way to do it all. People would love to, say or like put yourself in a particular bubble, but I really strongly encourage to. It starts by being curious. It starts by being, sometimes you could be the shy girl in the room, but wanting to jump at, oh wait, what about this? Or let me test this out. Or maybe you're the girl who, for me, I was the very hyperactive. I was always the one talking and trying to get engaged and utilizing my curiosity to find things that are actually very, very niche. So the way I managed to balance was really a lot of it grows with time. So you start off with one particular thing. For me, and I strongly believe when it comes to navigating, I always get the question, Mary, what do I want to continue? What do I want to do? How do I figure out what I want to do for a living, or as I get older, and whatever it might be? And I strongly believe taking that one thing that gives you that passion, that gives you that drive, that one thing that lets you, wake up every single morning and slowly find things that will that can attach to that one key indicator, that one key passion, that one key thing that makes you wake up every single morning, and find a way to connect it. And I think that people need to, and I've seen it all the time, but being multifaceted is a strength. Don't let anyone tell you that that's not the case. So being able to jump into everything is really, it's a hard transition, but it's in your favor. It's in your hands for a reason, and it's in front of you for a reason. So you might as well go ahead and try it out.
Great, great. So math and science can be difficult for a lot of young people. You hear a lot of young people say, "Oh, I don't like math," or "I don't like science." But what should they do if they're interested in healthcare? They want to be involved. They want to make a difference in this way. What are some ways they can do that?
Yeah, no, when it comes to the complexity of our of education, it's especially within the gaps that we have, it's definitely something that we need to acknowledge. I will first start by saying that I wasn't very good at math or science when I was really, really young. And it's all about the mentors and the people that I actually ended up, connecting with throughout time and engaging with and building a really good friendship with. And that's ultimately actually why I ended up starting the foundation that I started, is to create, even general communication around engineering, around science, around math, the things that seem very complex, seem very intimidating. So even though I'm at Cornell right now and I'm in the realm of engineering, or I'm at Harvard, or I've done these particular experiences, that does not mean I was good at them at all. Like, I was really bad at math, even to the point where I ended up taking community college classes to, try to figure out and mediate those gaps in between. So when it comes to navigating that complexity when you're very young, it's about really just being curious. And if someone tells you no, they can't mentor you here, no, they can't do this here, somebody's going to say yes. I promise somebody's going to say yes, because of how your passion, because of your curiosity. So 100 no, I've seen it, tens to hundreds of no's, but somebody out there is going to say yes. Just got to ask the right people, and you kind of figure it out who we should start asking through some experience and through time.
That's so important, because I think sometimes young people look at older people and they think, you know, they don't think about the process. They just see the finished product and they're striving to do that, not realizing, this person maybe took 20 years to get to that point. I think back when I was younger, I had a tutor in English in elementary school. And then I got to middle school and I had this teacher who told me, "Wow, you're so creative. You write these nice stories." And it flipped everything I thought about
Mm.
English and writing. And now I'm getting a PhD, and that's all I do is write and take in information. So it just kind of shows you how those mentors are so important. And just because it starts a little difficult doesn't mean it'll always be that way. So you mentioned your foundation. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I like to describe myself as a serial social entrepreneur. So not necessarily in particular spaces. So one of the ones I've described is the Food for Thought Foundation, and it's ultimately a at-home and also public school educational curriculum that allows students to get and obtain the basics of computer science. So basic ideas and understandings of Python or other languages like R. It helps you develop your educational curriculum. So working with these other, of building the hydroponic itself and using these other platforms. You may have heard of one called Arduino. And from there, also, it gives you the science and it gives you the basic foundations of math in order to end up building the product, which is a hydroponic, which if you don't know what that is, it's a bit mass data. It's a huge, like refrigerator size device that lets you to grow fruits and vegetables without the need for water. So it's supposed to help those communities that in need that need a little bit more substance, at least when it comes to, for a city, for example, or communities that don't have that adequate soil or that adequate space. It's also just more accessible and easier for the space. And then a few other ones is I am a medtech innovator, so as mentioned earlier, and I've created around 4 to 5 different medical devices around the realm of hormone health. So one in particular is that, to give some context as well, women weren't required in research since 1993, and they're not leading in any particular research spaces at all. And so what we identified is that when it comes to bridging that gap, we have to acknowledge and utilize that hormone data so we can go ahead and make sure that, women aren't women aren't forgotten when it comes to research or clinical trials, things that could really affect people overall, given that we're half the population. And so it's ultimately a mass data collection device, particularly for hormones. And then it also has an engineering component of there are particular ovulation tests or other hormone tests implemented into menstrual products. So people all over the world and country who do not have the direct access for going into for a clinic, or communities that don't have the ability to go see a doctor, a professional, can go ahead and identify that optimal time for their hormones and just get a better acknowledgement for their own self. And then also a bit of agency and media when it comes to health and fitness as well. But I also, Carly, I have to say I agree with you completely about the your transition from the writing to all the way to the storytelling portion. So all of this sounds really complex, really convoluted, but it started by one particular small idea that came, and something that I found an issue for myself. So when you talk and you want to build something, worthwhile, the main thing that a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you, or innovators, that what they would say is you got to make sure you find and focus particularly on the problem and your customers around it. So if you are a customer, or the community around you is a customer, the best first step is to end up surveying. Do something for it's free. It's just talk to them, talk to your potential customers, talk to people who need your product, who need your solution. And that's a really, really great place to really start when it comes to building these kind of things.
That's so important because I think sometimes when we have these ideas and we know that they're worth something, we want to immediately jump into, well, what can I get for this?
Yeah.
Not realizing, like, just having that idea and knowing that it can help others, that is, the gift to ourselves. So that's so important. You don't have to always charge for something, make money from something for it to be impactful and to be meaningful to you.
Yeah.
So I love following you on social media, Mary. It's very exciting. All your posts and your reels and your encouragement. Sometimes I'm sitting down on the couch, Mary, and then I see your post and I'm like, let me get up. Let me go do something. Yes. But one thing I recently saw that you were on the ELF's 22 under 22 list. How did that moment feel?
Yeah, that was a really awesome moment. And it wasn't necessarily particularly about the acknowledgement, because Carly, you might get this, but in some spaces you really need a lot of the credibility in your work. You need to be shown as you're someone who's trustworthy. You don't just invict emotion. You're someone who I can come to and I can talk to and I can, relate with. And you've had all this experience and I just can trust you. And it was really nice because I finally acknowledged why, in the US, we have a lot of these acknowledgments. And it's because, at least while I'm not a doctor yet, it's really about navigating and seeing where can I find credibility with my audience now? How can I grow with them right now? And that's what it ultimately can help bring. And it was a fantastic experience. My acknowledgement for being under 22 was really a symbol of my work. The reason why I got acknowledged was because of my research that I did I started out when I was really young. Ended up, creating that into a product with my team that is now implemented in labs all over the country. And that required a lot of mentorship as well. Like we are all really pieces of so many different people and so many different experiences and so many different things combined into one. It was really such a team effort. It makes me just want to use we and not I for the rest of my life. So it was really lovely.
I love the way you put that. It's not necessarily about the acknowledgement. I mean, it is, but it's about the credibility and knowing, raising awareness of Mary is here. You can come to her and she's a source. And I love that. I love that. One thing I wanted to know, what is the journey like to Ivy League?
Hmm. So I actually didn't. I'll give you some context. At one point in my life, I didn't think I was going to go to a college at all. Nonetheless, an Ivy League or an Ivy League institution or an institution known for, its selectivity and known for a lot of the hidden things that you think about when it comes to an institution like Cornell or like Harvard. The process in particular was very, very niche. I found out about, colleges very, very late, very, very last minute. And I think when it comes to navigating the space, it's realizing I didn't know at one point, one, there's the financial implications. You are around a lot of people who don't have to worry about the financial aspect of college generally. But nonetheless, if you're from a particular background or space, there is most likely they're able to fund you. But the one big difference I would say when it comes to an Ivy League institution is the network. It's really the community and it's really the people who bring around that are a game changer. And I'm not just saying talk to people. I'm not just saying, just be very general or just kind of play it out. It's really given that I've taken community college classes before, I've seen what it was like at a public private institution, and then also comparing it to an Ivy League, it's really just about the network and the people that come out of it who are managing to help you. So maybe, for example, if jumping into something a little bit more complex like venture capital or whatever it might be, it's the direct connections to obtaining that, especially as a woman, especially as a Black woman, especially because that's 2% chance right there. It can definitely increase and really support the space. So it's thankfully I believe Cornell is a little bit more diverse in comparison to all the other ones, but it was definitely a very challenging matriculation going from a small town in Virginia to still small town over here, but all the way up in New York. I hope I answered that correctly.
No, it was great, great. I just want people who may be listening to know about that journey, know it's something that they can achieve. The path doesn't look the same for
Yeah.
everyone, but it's something that is obtainable. So tell me, Mary, what's next?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think Carly, I'm really trying to get like you. So I'm trying to
Oh,
have
you
the the doctor in front of my name. Doctor is someone who can obtain, credibility and being able to ask quality questions, and theorize and really put their expertise on this one particular thing in the world. So I would even say that everything that I do in the realm of STEM is a type of art. I mean, with time, it requires a lot of creativity. It requires also a lot of structure as well to, answering a particular kind of question. So the next step really is obtaining the doctorate, continuing my work in the realm of my agency, and then also social media. Social media has been a fantastic, fantastic place to really create and develop your brand. For me, I actually ended up giving a TED Talk on the concept of branding. And one thing that I love people to know is when it comes to your brand, and I'm going to use two examples. I'm going to use Elf Cosmetics because I love Elf Cosmetics. And then I'm going to use the brand, if you've ever heard of them, they're called Liquid Death. And Liquid Death it sounds really scary, but it's a water brand, but it does look like an alcoholic beverage, but it's a water brand. And the kiddos love it. They love, they feel like they're raging out, and I love that for them. But when it comes to these kind of brands, when it comes to branding to yourself, and when it comes to outside socially and culturally, the best brands are doing something very different. And I like to say that they're bold, but they're bold with a kind heart. So they're bold with purpose. And so my example when it comes to Elf Cosmetics is that Elf Cosmetics is not a makeup brand, just like how Liquid Death isn't a water brand. But instead, Elf Cosmetics is an entertainment brand that happens to sell makeup. And Liquid Death is an entertainment brand that happens to sell water. Just like the Miss America organization is an entertainment brand that happens to serve and give scholarships, right? And then for yourself, I am an entertainment brand, or I am a brand that happens to storytell, who happens to advocate, who happens to do research. So when it comes to people identifying, their next steps and how they want to brand themselves and the importance of branding in today's age, that's something that I think that perspective has changed everything for me moving forward. So that's the next steps of the life of Mary.
Those next steps help me get my life together. Okay, I am a brand. I am a brand, and who also does this and this. Think, Mary, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna go work something up with that.
Yes, you are a
It's so
brand.
good. It's so good. So, Mary, now I have some rapid fire fun questions. Okay, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my gosh. Anything by Frank Sinatra. Oh no, Adele. I love
Okay,
Adele because she's an alto. She's an alto, and I'm also an alto.
I love Adele too. Okay, favorite thing to splurge on?
Ooh, Fashion Nova.
Me too, girl. And then don't get me started on Afterpay. Let me
Right? Love
Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
that. I to read people's minds, and I know that's a lot like that. I know that can either go two sides of things, but I love transparency. I love transparency, and I love seeing a good heart. I
Yeah.
love seeing a good heart go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. If the actions and what they speak is actually,
Right?
making sure it's all aligned, the intent, the actions,
Right.
okay.
I feel like I've developed so much emotional intelligence to read through it, but also like it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if you know these two, Mary. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I say Backstreet Boys because I don't know what NSYNC is. I'm so
Okay, this is like my favorite. I ask everyone that question, and some people are like, "What? Who is like?" Okay, so yeah. If you could have dinner with someone, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I wish we could have dinner in front of us right now. I would love to cook us American. I love some seafood right now. But aside from that, I would say Princess Diana. It was just her anniversary just
Ooh,
yesterday. So definitely the queen herself.
that is a great answer. I would just love to say, like, all the drama and the tabloids and all that stuff we were hearing. Was it true? What
Yeah,
happened? Tell me.
how do you remember, right?
That's a great one. Wow. Okay. Before we get out of here, Mary, can you tell the listeners where they can keep up with you?
Yes, absolutely. So please feel free to keep up with any of my social media. So it's really my first name, last name, Maryam, Maryam, and then last name, Bellakbira, Bellakbira. Bellakbira. And if you see, there's also a direct website to everything. If you ever want to reach out or email me or ask for any sort of guidance, I am here because I will never forget where I came from and how I got to this particular space and how I'm managing to have conversations with amazing people like you. So
Oh, thank you, Mary. You're an amazing person. This was great. I've learned a lot. I feel like I'm gonna go make a plan, put some things in action because of this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me. This is fantastic. And it was very, very nice to chat with you.
Yes, nice to chat with you too.